Hi everyone, in this video let me explain you how to build a new consent form in Unite. You can go to configurator, consent form. One is the consent form builder and the other is the consent form mapping screen. You can use the consent form builder to build a new consent form, and to map the consent forms you can use the consent form mapping screen. Let me get into consent form builder. So when I come into the consent form builder, we do have the existing consent forms in a card format. You also have the search option to search the consent forms, and you also have the filter option to filter the consent form based on its types. You can edit, preview or delete the existing consent forms. To create a new consent form, click on the create new consent form button. The screen is divided into three panels. The left panel contains the consent form variables, whether it is patient name, nationality, gender, age, or however it is. Similarly, we have the doctor details variables, seal and signatures, and the visit details variables. The middle panel can be used to build a consent form, and the right panel contains the consent form layouts and the controls. You can also make it bold, italic, or you can also change the font size and the font style. Similarly, we have the alignment, bullets, and etc. The header and footer will be auto-fetched based on the clinic. You can also delete the header and upload a new one. And now let's start preparing a consent form. Let's enter the consent form title. I have a sample consent form here, that is the general consent form. So let me take the consent form name and paste it here. You can also enter the consent form name here. To start with the consent form, we need to insert the layout. You can either insert a full layout or a split layout. Let me insert a full layout. Now let me copy paste the content. Let me copy the content in the consent form and let me paste it in the builder. You can also change the font. Let me update it as 18 to make it more visible. And now let's start inserting the variables. As I have patient name here, I need the patient name variable. Under the patient details, I have the name variable. Just a single click on that. And now I need the date of birth. Let me insert the date of birth variable here. Similarly, we need the patient signature. Let me insert the patient signature and the doctor signature here. And now I need to keep a text box in the guardian name field. On the right panel, I do have a text box here. Let me insert a text box. When I just single click on that text box, the properties will be opened. I can also type it here. And to the gender, I need to keep a radio button. Let me insert a radio button here. In the right side, I do have a radio button. Let me insert two radio buttons for the male and female. So single click on the radio button, the group name field will be opened. Let me keep it as group 1. And we need to keep the same group name for the other radio button as well. Only then this or that will be considered. So this is how you have to set the variables. Similarly, we do have other controls such as date picker. You can also set drop down, checkbox, and you can also insert a table if needed. Just clicking on the table button, you can enter the number of rows and columns needed and click on create table. The table will be created. You can also modify the column heading. Likewise, we do have multiple controls here as well as the multiple variables. Based on the consent form and the requirements, we can set the variables and the controls. Similarly, you do have other controls such as the image upload. Just single click on the image upload icon. You can upload the image from the system, and you can also upload the watermark. And this is how you have to set the consent form. Once the consent form has been prepared, you can select the consent form type. You can also click on the preview button to preview the consent form that has been prepared. Once the consent form has been prepared and finalized, you can click on save. The consent form will be created. Likewise, to prepare a consent form in both English and Arabic, you can insert the split layout. Now I have inserted the split layout. Let me enter the content. I have a consent form here with both English and Arabic. Let me copy and paste it here. Let me take patient name and patient signature. And now let me copy paste the Arabic content. Let me paste the patient name and the patient signature. And now I need the patient name variable. Let me insert the variable. Please note the Arabic will be started from the right to left. And this is how you have to set a split layout consent form with both English and Arabic. And let's say, so this is how you have to prepare a consent form. Now let me map the consent form. You can go to the consent form mapping screen and select the consent form. Select the mapping type, whether you want to map the consent form for the complete clinic or against any specific department. You can also set the effective date of this consent form and click on add. And now the consent form has been mapped. So this is how you have to prepare a consent form and map the prepared consent form to the clinic. Thanks for watching.